Well, howdy, folks. It is. Ooh, listen to that. Love some lovely jazz. Right now, it is 7:31 p.m. CST on the 19th of March, and it is 2022. And hello there, Moss. Do you mind if I ask, why aren't you enjoying the piano? I don't mind changing it, but I'm just curious. There we go. So welcome on in, folks. Today we have a lot going on. We're going to be reading some good news, as we always do. And you might be asking yourself, hey, what is this show? What is this that I've stumbled into? Well, every Saturday, me, your humble host, Cass, I talk about some stuff that's happening in the world for the better. And it's just me reading to you guys for a couple of hours while I interact with chat. Because it's your parents' music, well, I can't speak to what that it says to you, but we are going to have music like that on the stream at some point. So, unfortunately, that may be something you have to bear with. So I hope that that's something that you can cross the hurdle of, because that is music that I'd like to have on the show at some point. So I hope we can make that happen. As well as me talking about my life, talking about things that I've noticed, and generally just things that are super useful. And today we have some, to begin with, interesting topics on me. To begin with, I'm going to cross the 30-inch hurdle on my waistline pretty soon, and I don't really know what that's going to be like. But this is going to be a strange topic. But as I welcome you guys back, I guess I'm going to say I'm getting ripped. Which is not something I thought I would ever be able to say so confidently, but I've started to develop some legitimate muscles across my body, and I'm really happy with it. On top of it, I'm really enjoying basically the benefits of all of this, because I still have some sleeping problems, which does not let me capitalize on a lot of the helpful parts of my attempt to lose belly fat. Subcutaneous and visceral fat, I think I've mentioned this before, have both played a part in what has caused my belly to be forming. But it turns out that if you simply get better sleep, eat a good nutritional breakfast or rest of your day as well, and eat fewer carbs, you can sort of just get through all of it. Which I plan to do. So, we have some good news today, and we may play a bit of Dwarf at the end of it, and you may hear me chewing on some small pieces of tofu. We'll see where we go from there. All right. So, for our first piece of informational stuffs, we have this one, which is going into the stream chat if anybody is curious. These solar panels also pull in water vapor to grow crops in the desert. Using unique hydrogel, scientists in Saudi Arabia have successfully drawn water out of the air for growing spinach while producing electricity from the solar panels that power it all. The system offers a sustainable low-cost strategy to improve food and water security for people living in dry climate regions. A fraction of the world's population still doesn't have access to clean water or green power, and many of them live in rural areas with arid or semi-arid climates, says Peng Wang, a professor of environmental science and engineering at the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. Our design makes water out of air using clean energy that would have been wasted and is sustainable for decentralized, small-scale farms in remote places like deserts and oceanic islands. Tofu crunches are better than piano music. Well, you're going to be hearing both at some point. Maybe not together, but I hope we can come to an understanding of some kind. The system, called WEC2P, is composed of a solar photovoltaic panel placed atop a layer of hydrogel, which is mounted on top of a large metal box to condense and collect water. Wang and his team developed the hydrogel in their prior research, a material that can effectively absorb water vapor from ambient air and release the water content when heated. The researchers used the waste heat from solar panels when generating electricity to drive absorbed water out of the hydrogel. The metal box below collects the vapor and condenses the gas into water. That is insane to me that you can make that work. Additionally, the hydrogel increases the efficiency of solar photovoltaic panels as much as 9%, because it absorbs the heat and lowers the panel's temperature. The team conducted a plant growing test by using WEC2P in Saudi Arabia for 2 weeks in June, when the weather was very hot. They used the water solely collected from air to irrigate 60 water spinach seeds planted in a plastic plant growing box. And if you'd like to see one, I will send you a pic here in a moment, folks. Or we can just look at it together. So this is the sort of thing that they're showing off right now, which it's kind of hard for me to tell what this is, but I'll give you a little demonstration. So it appears that a number of these pieces of aerogel are being used as the photosynthesis occurs, and it's cooling off the entire system because of it and taking the excess water and making it into actual liquid instead of just being the vapors of oxygen. And I mean, this is a fairly complex sounding piece of equipment, and I don't know if I completely can explain it to you, but it's one of those strange things that it's very lovely to see this sort of technology exists right now. Over the course of the experiment, the solar panel, with a size similar to that, to the top of a student desk. Oh, Chia, hello, welcome on in. Generated a total of 1,519 watt-hours of electricity, and 57 out of 60 of the water spinach seeds sprouted and grew normally to 18 centimeters. In total, about 2 liters of water were condensed from the hydrogel over the 2-week period. Our goal is to create an integrated system of clean energy, water, and food production, especially the water creation part in our design, which sets us apart from current agro-photovoltaics, also known as agri-voltaics, says Wang. To turn the proof of concept design into an actual product, the team plans to create a better hydrogel that can absorb more water from the air. Making sure everyone on Earth has access to clean water and affordable clean energy is part of the Sustainable Development Goals set by the United Nations, Wang says. I hope our design can be a decentralized power and water system to light homes and water crops. The proof of concept design was described in the March 1 peer-reviewed Journal of Cell Reports Physical Science. So we already have this one, and we also have another lovely one that had that tinted glass as the method of photosynthesis. And I like those a lot. Both of those are great. So our next one is volunteers are soothing senior loneliness, giving free rides on couch bikes worldwide. Find one near you. Aww. I'm going to actually show this one to you guys. It's very cute. Why isn't my night eye thingy working? It's very strange. It doesn't seem to work on this site. There we go. In cities across the world, volunteers are taking the elderly and people with disabilities out for spins on special tricycles to enjoy the great outdoors. It's called Cycling Without Age. The group is finally up and riding again in Scotland following the relaxation of COVID-19 restrictions, and they are delighted to be re-engaging their scientifically proven method of enhancing well-being in seniors. Cycling Without Age began in Denmark in 2012, when two good-hearted people, including Ole Kassau of Copenhagen, wanted to help the local elderly and less able individuals get back on their bicycles. They designed a trishaw with a two-person bench at the front where passengers could sit and enjoy the view. Now there are 2,700 chapters worldwide, using well over 3,700 trishaws, and anyone can see the obvious benefits on the faces of people within the carriages. The Scottish government immediately supported the non-profit as it chartered its service in 2017. Today, it's available for free in almost every part of the country. 27 local authorities are participating in the project, which has already approved and provided rides to 43,500 Scots, thanks to thousands of volunteer peddlers. Passengers and pilots alike are back enjoying sea and mountain views in some of the most beautiful regions Scotland has to offer. So let's take a look at this. Oh gosh. So this is one of those things where people who are not able to get out and see the world suddenly have this fantastic and unbelievable connection to the world around them. Seeing the water sparkling and clear, and seeing the people moving about, and seeing the world that's changed while they've been sitting and waiting. I really envy that these people get to have that starstruck nature of seeing the changes in the world that they didn't know existed before. Even though I can probably get that just as easily, I do feel a bit of joy in knowing that that's something that they can still be so amazed and shocked by. I hope that they haven't been too jaded by their time indoors. I can say that as well. I hope that they haven't. In an effort to quantify the value of CWA, the Aging Lab at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh worked independently to measure the effects of a ride a day versus a non-ride day on dozens of participants who had taken at least 4 rides. Asked to describe their mood, stress, and energy levels using a scientific scale, they showed a strong improvement on ride days. They give them the right to wind in their hair, said a representative. Although the surface incurs zero cost to the riders. The bikes reportedly cost $13,000 each, but that hasn't slowed down the movement. From Chicago suburbs to Bolivia, from Littleton, Colorado to Togo and Malaysia, CWA is combating loneliness and isolation in 52 countries, 1 mile and kilometer at a time. Let's watch the video.
Many thousands of people feel lonely and isolated. Cherished memories of happy times gone by fade, while the longing grows. Longing to be with people. Longing to get out into and enjoy the world around us. Cycling Without Age Scotland is addressing that longing in a unique way for thousands of people in every part of the country, from the borders to our furthest islands. New branches of this pioneering charity are coming on board all the time, and such is the importance of what it does.
Just lovely. Look at that.
Right from its start in 2018,
All these people are just coming out.
Cycling Without Age Scotland has been supported by the Scottish Government.
The project itself is entirely different from anything else that happens in Scotland, and its uniqueness is its main attraction. These tri-shows can make anywhere accessible to people with any form of disability or mobility impairment.
It gives anybody, any older person, anybody with mobility issues, a chance to get outside. It's free of charge. They can book any time that suits themselves, and they can also choose the location they go to, how long they spend, what activities they either want to do or see. So, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic.
It's lovely. It's nice to get out into
Aww.
fresh air, and you've got company.
The most enjoyable part of it is
That
actually
old lady was
taking
so
them
sweet.
into the fresh air, but also taking them away from the
I love
environment
sweet old
they're in,
ladies.
into
They're such
the
cuties.
woodland and looking at nature, smelling different smells, and just finding that one magical moment when you're there to bring back maybe childhood memories when they're at the park.
It's just amazing. I feel I'm in a world apart. It reminds me of when I was a lot younger and able to go out into the countryside. Yes, that's what it reminds me of, getting out walking, and felt like royalty, actually, waving to everybody and people waving to us.
It's not just the lives of older people that Cycling Without Age Scotland enriches. It does that for anyone with mobility issues.
I've seen such a change in Ashley over this period of time. The first few rides we came out, she didn't make any sounds. She just sat and didn't show very much interest. And then over a period of time, she started giggling, and we got thumbs up and smiles and glowing kisses. And she's just become more and more vocal.
There are so
Hey, nature,
many
man. Nature's a powerful thing.
that Cycling Without Age Scotland provides.
We can have some residents who can be quite down in the dumps in the morning, and just a ride around the village can make a complete difference. It keeps a smile on their face, so if they're happy, I'm happy. They just love being outside, and the bike gives them the chance because it goes so slow. They get to look into the gardens, they get to see a lot of scenery that you wouldn't see if you were in a car. A lot of them love gardening, so when we go through Earth especially, there's a lot of nice gardens there, so they enjoy that.
People always stop to talk as well, and our residents are usually responsive to that, so that keeps the communication skills there as well, so that's always great.
Oh, you know, those old people love to see those babies. Babies are like, they're like fountains of youth for old people.
It's thoroughly enjoyable, great exercise, great company.
This is a great opportunity to help out in the community and to really bring generations together. To be able to see that you're bringing a smile to people's faces and to make a difference in their lives, it's very rewarding. For me, it's a pleasure, a great privilege.
Without a doubt, the project can be summarised as being life enriching, life enhancing and life extending.
Life extending.
Bandabby dozy. Bandabby dozy.
Oh my gosh, I think they're talking about this guy. He was very attractive, so I understand why they would be talking about him, but I only hope they see him as more than just a driver of their trimshaw. Or trishaw, excuse me. Well, personally, if I could get an exercise routine that involved pedaling old people around the neighborhood, I think it's a pretty good one, honestly. What I need is a series of tofu cookers, and I need to place all the tofu in them and have them turned on at certain times so I can get home, eat my tofu, and then get on with my day. No waiting at all, just like a Rube Goldberg machine of making tofu. Gosh, that'd be great. I'm gonna need some green goddess on that though. So, our next one is watch amazing video of whale sharks teaming up with other predators in rare view. Oh, this one does have a video at the bottom. Cool. Once again, I don't know why this one isn't as easily getting the... let me look at this again. Let's see. Dark on this site. How do I make it so this site is the one that it's always on? I'm not sure. But I'm trying my very best to make sure that this site is counted as being always on. A group of whale sharks were recently seen feeding on baitfish balls in tandem with other predators in some stunning underwater footage. The world's largest fish and normally cruises around, expending very little energy while eating tiny krill. And this sort of fast, coordinated hunting is very poorly understood by marine biologists. Recorded growing as long as 60 feet and weighing many tons. Despite a 5-foot-long mouth, its throat opening is only about the size of a grapefruit. This limits the animal's availability and its available edibles to krill and plankton. But 21st century documentation has confirmed that anchovies, baitfish, and even the occasional squid are also on the menu. Wow! I didn't know this. Bait balls are swarms of small fish concentrated in a single ever-moving mass. As a defense mechanism, they draw in predators of all shapes, and in the video filmed off Ningaloo Reef in Western Australia, the whale sharks feed together with diving wedge-tailed shearwaters, which are a kind of petrel, powerful tuna, and both trevally and whaler sharks. It seems possible that either the smaller feeders are coordinating their attacks off of the lumbering charges of the whale sharks, but cooperation in nature is rarely a single-lane road, and it's possible that the whale sharks benefit from the other predators' presence as well. The interactions. Oh, here we go. I almost forgot to put this down for you guys. Here we go. The interactions made my mind race with a whole bunch of questions. Emily Lester, a postdoctoral fellow at the Australian Institute for Marine Science, told National Geographic. Lester published a paper on the interactions in the journal Pacific Conservation Biology. We know that when bait balls are around, other predators do these spatially coordinated attacks to maximize their foraging efficiency. What if the same thing is happening here? I wonder if this is a two-way interaction, Lester muses. After the whale sharks charge through the bait ball, can those other predators capitalize on the isolated fishes that are separated? Bait balls form not as what seems to be an apparent reckless pact, but because not only is there strength in numbers, but also because the limitless number of targets confuses predators, which, possessing strong focal vision, prefer to focus on a single prey animal. At 0:37 in the video, one can see that the charging whale shark is tailed by a cool dozen other hungry fish, perhaps ready to target the isolated fish as Lester suspected. What the whale sharks get in return is unknown as of now. So guys, here's another one. And this is a weird one. I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen this before, so we're gonna look at it together. Let's hope that it doesn't disappoint. Gosh, look at those things. Wow, oh my gosh. Isn't that insane that fish make those shapes? I don't even know how to describe that, really. It's like a moving carpet of fish. Whoa. This reminds me of a video game called Abzu. It's a very, very good game. I recommend it. Yeah. Honestly, it's another one of those things where I'm like, wow. I find it very difficult to believe that fish could come up with that idea, but somehow they've managed to, you know? It's very surprising to me whenever I see it. But not that surprising, I'll tell you that much. Okay, so here we go, folks. Let me put this one into the stream chat on the Discord for you. And there we go. CRISPR gene editing tool redesigned to be 4,000 times less likely to target the wrong strand of DNA. One of the grand challenges with using CRISPR-based gene editing on humans is that the molecular machinery sometimes makes changes to the wrong section of a host's genome, creating the possibility that an attempt to repair a genetic mutation in one spot in the genome could accidentally create a new dangerous mutation in another. But now, scientists at the University of Texas at Austin have redesigned a key component of a widely used CRISPR-based gene editing tool called Cas9. Who would have guessed? To be thousands of times less likely to target the wrong stretch of DNA, while remaining just as efficient as the original version, making it potentially much safer. This really could be a game changer in terms of a wider application of the CRISPR-Cas systems in gene editing, said Kenneth Johnson, a professor of molecular biosciences and co-senior author of the study with David Taylor, an assistant professor of molecular biosciences. The paper's co-first authors are postdoctoral fellows Jack Bravo and Mu Sin Liu. Other labs have redesigned Cas9 to reduce off-target interactions, but so far, all these versions improve accuracy by sacrificing speed. Superfy Cas9, as this new version has been dubbed, is 4,000 times less likely to cut off target sites, but just as fast as naturally occurring Cas9. Bravo says you can think of the different lab-generated versions of Cas9 as different models of self-driving cars. Most models are really safe, but they have a top speed of 10 miles per hour. They're safer than the naturally occurring Cas9, but it comes at a big cost. They're going extremely slowly, said Bravo. Superfi Cas9 is like a self-driving car that has been engineered to be extremely safe, but it can still go at full speed. Very good. So far, the researchers have demonstrated the use of Superfi Cas9 on DNA in test tubes. They're now collaborating with other researchers who plan to test Superfi Cas9 for gene editing in living cells. They're also working to develop still safer and more active versions of Cas9. CRISPR-based gene editing tools are adapted from naturally occurring systems in bacteria. In nature, a Cas9 protein floats around in the environment searching for DNA with a very specific sequence of 20 letters, like the X on a pirate map that indicates dig here. Sometimes when most of the letters are correct except those in spots 18 through 20, Cas9 still goes ahead and digs in. This is called a mismatch, and it can have disastrous consequences in gene editing. Oh gosh. Taylor and Johnson developed a technique called Kinetics guided structure determination that used a cryo-electron microscope in the Sauer Structural Biology Lab to take snapshots of Cas9 in action as it interacted with this mismatched DNA. They were surprised to discover that when Cas9 encounters this type of mismatch in positions 18 through 20, instead of giving up and moving on, it has a finger-like structure that swoops in and holds on to the DNA, making it act as if it were the correct sequence. Normally, a mismatch leaves the DNA a bit floppy. This finger-like structure stabilizes it. It's like if you had a chair and one of its legs was snapped off, and you just duct taped it together again, Bravo said. It could still function as a chair, but it might be a bit wobbly. It's a pretty dirty fix. Without the added stability in the DNA, Cas9 doesn't take the other steps needed to cut the DNA and make edits. No one had ever observed this extra finger doing this stabilization before. This was something that I could never have in a million years imagined in my mind would have happened, Taylor said. Based on this insight, they redesigned the extra finger on Cas9 so that instead of stabilizing the part of the DNA containing the mismatch, the finger is instead pushed away from the DNA, which prevents Cas9 from continuing the process of cutting and editing the DNA. The result is Superfi Cas9, a protein that cuts the right target just as readily as naturally occurring Cas9, but is much less likely to cut the wrong target. Other authors are Grace Hibschman, Tyler Dangerfield, Kyung Suk Jung, and Ryan McCool. That's a great name. Also of the University of Texas at Austin. Bravo, Liu, Hibschman, Dangerfield, Johnson, and Taylor are inventors on a patent application covering novel Cas9 designs based on this work. The UT Austin Office of Technology Commercialization is managing the intellectual property and working to find the industry partners that can help realize the vast potential of the technology. This work has been published in Nature Journal. Well, lovely. So I don't really have the best understanding of how gene editing even works, to be honest with you. My assumption is that they inject you with a needle and that like just changes stuff around, very Bioshock-like, but I'm certain it's not that simple. I love that line from that game. Your genetic code is being rewritten. I'm like, my gosh, man, who wrote this? But either way, we're moving on to our next story, and let me put this in the chat for you, for those who are interested. This portable EV charger is a game changer for drivers who need to plug in. So let me give you guys a little view of what I'm seeing right here. It looks like some kind of carry-on case, and it's got a little bit of like a zap on it, like an Elon Musk future zap. The world's first portable battery pack to recharge an electric vehicle, EV, will be shipping to customers in early 2023. The Zip Charge Go was designed like a rolling suitcase and meant to address the fact that hundreds of millions of people might want an EV, but live in a building with street parking and therefore no way to recharge their EV at night. It's in the Discord. Look at Stream Chat in the Discord at the very bottom of the left series of channels. An inability to charge near or at home is one of the main reasons to reject EVs in the UK. According to research, 38% of participants said they were not likely to buy an EV in the next 5 years, with 36% worried about being unable to charge at home. With state-of-the-art bi-directional charging, the Go can be filled up in one's house in a single hour, while providing 20 to 40 miles of extra range in between 30 to 60 minutes when plugged into one's car. 20 to 40 doesn't sound like much, but neither did the mileage numbers for the early EVs, and the company will look to improve these numbers as soon as the product launches in 2023. Since our launch at COP26 in November last year, ZipCharge has received an unprecedented level of interest from potential customers around the world, said ZipCharge co-founder Jonathan Carrier. They immediately see the benefit of the Go portable charger to deliver low-cost, convenient charging anywhere they park. I'm glad you found it, Moz. Carrier and fellow co-founder Richie Sibal Ha, 40-plus years of experience working in the EV departments for automobile companies like Jaguar, Land Rover, Lotus, and McLaren. ZipCharge Go will come with a mobile app that will allow people to track the charging speed and status of their battery. This will allow users to plug in, go back inside, and see exactly how much time is left to full charge while they make a nice cup of joe, or anything, really. This, the owners believe, will be ideal for delivery or service fleet managers who can monitor the battery state of all their vehicles in the field, avoid unnecessary stops to recharge, as well as inconvenient parking to charge up back in the depot. Pricing will be around the same as a high-speed home EV charging station, or available for lease at €49 per month. However, GNN can confirm that the charging pack will not be available in a leather briefcase, removing the ability for Go owners to pretend they're spies. Interesting. We are committed to launching a truly groundbreaking product in the Go, one that meets the needs of a range of customer groups and how they would like to use the Go, Carrier says. This includes private individuals, fleets, and end destinations, such as hotels, retail complexes, supermarkets, and leisure activities. All the locations where the Zip Charge Go can provide flexible, convenient, and low-cost charging for everyone, anywhere they park. So lovely, let's see it. Zip Charge. Do you want to power up your car? Just step over and power it. Also, this is probably DMCA music. Zip Charge. Go. Anywhere. Anytime. Anyone. I'm done doing that one, by the way. I'm just going to enjoy the rest of it. I like seeing them plug into the car, though. I like that. It's a big change from the gasoline that you have to put in there. The gasoline. Interesting. Honestly, I don't actually know how I feel about that. I think that creating another situation in which you need to have another thing carrying with you or being brought with you in order to actually, I guess, just show up and do the thing that you normally were going to do anyway. It does seem to me that the inconvenience of owning an electric vehicle still hasn't quite gotten to the point where it's enough of a convenient thing to use it more reliably than standard petrol and gasoline fuels. But I don't know. I don't have the exacts on that. It does seem cool bringing that little suitcase around with you, though, I have to admit. It does seem cool. So, this is a pretty long one here. So, I am going to be right back, okay? And while I am be right backing, I'm going to put on a little music for you. Let me see what I can find that I like. Let's see if we have a good one here. I don't know what that guy is. Let's try this one. Alright, folks, we'll be back in just about 5 minutes, okay? So, don't go anywhere unless you really need to. Interesting, interesting. Very good. I came back just in time. Alright, folks. So we're back at it. Sorry if that was a little quicker than you were expecting. I was just making sure that I had gone to the bathroom and such. So, back at it again. Here is our next good news story. Going into the chat for those of you that would like to read it along. The perfect energy source is already here. Endless geothermal is poised for release from deep in the earth. I've heard about geothermal in multiple forms, but I'm not certain exactly what our best way to do this is. You know what, though? It's got some interesting pictures, so I'll put it up for you guys. I mean, look at that. It's kind of interesting looking. Get to the molten core. As physicists work in the nuclear fusion sector to unlock limitless clean energy through harnessing the power of the sun in their hands, they inadvertently invented a tool that could allow geothermal plants to deliver limitless clean energy by harnessing the power of the earth. That tool is a large millimeter wave laser drill that will allow engineers to bore down more than 12.4 miles, holy moly, that's 20 kilometers, folks, into the Earth's crust to harness the heat from the planet's core. I have no idea how anyone thought that up, but another link to nuclear fusion is that laser drilling technology is being pioneered by a spin-off company called Quace from MIT, who also run a nuclear fusion reactor in Massachusetts. Drilling to the core of the earth, straight from Massachusetts. That's an interesting sounding line for a book. The bottom line is that this idea is not science fiction, and Quace has the money to put several full-scale demonstration machines into action by 2024, and hopes to have a 100 megawatt supercritical geothermal plant in operation by 2026. Oh lordy. At 12.4 miles into the Earth's crust, temperatures soar to 500 degrees Celsius, a sector redefining level compared to traditional drill bit borehole temperatures of around 200 degrees Celsius. At this stage and depth, water under the ground becomes supercritical, a state of matter where it's neither a gas nor a liquid. Supercriticals were talked about just recently too on our other one. A power plant that uses supercritical water as the working fluid can extract. You lived in Massachusetts before for a short time. I didn't know that, Moss. I hope you enjoyed it. Can extract up to 10 times more useful energy from each drop when compared to non-supercritical plants. A spokesperson from Quace told New Atlas, aiming for supercritical conditions is key to attaining power densities consistent with fossil fuels. It's perhaps ironic that humans would seek to harness the energy of the sun and stars in a nuclear fusion reactor when there is 20 billion times more heat under our feet than the entire world's energy consumption. Merely 0.03% of global energy is derived from geothermal despite this richness. A virtually limitless supply of energy exists in the form of the supercritical fluid snaking its way through the crust and mantle of the planet, and just 0.01% of it would provide far more wattage than the world uses. So this, by comparison, does actually seem like a pretty reasonable thing to do when you put those statistics in there. In order to reach it, though, we need better drilling technology, And Quays is taking advantage of the work put into a 1970s piece of technology called a gyrotron. Anything with the word tron at the end of it is going to be crazy. That's just how science works. When needing to heat water into a plasma at the heart of a nuclear fusion reactor, scientists need to generate between 90 to 150 million degrees Celsius of heat. This has been done by both lasers and supermagnets. The gyrotron is one of those lasers, and it generates electromagnetic waves in the millimeter wave spectrum, shorter than microwaves and longer than infrared or visible light. Designed, invented, and tested in the USSR, the device is excellent at rapidly heating up a plasma without substantial energy usage. So, accessing already existing energy with already existing technology, Quays has proved itself remarkably efficient. They've raised 63 million USD in funding, a pittance in the field of nuclear fusion, but they're looking to cut out fossil fuels in a real way before the end of the decade. So I will tell you my opinion on all this after we have finished this story, but it does actually approach a very important topic, I think. Their next planned step may be the greatest recycling trick in the industry, as coal-fired power plants continue to be shuttered around the world. Their giant, already established infrastructure for converting steam into electricity, large electricity distribution equipment, and talented workforce could simply be taken over by Quays, who could merely replace the coal-fired components with those meant for harnessing supercritical water. That's pretty good. That's a good idea. There are somewhere upwards of 8,500 coal-fired power plants around the world, totaling over 2,000 gigawatts of capacity, and they'll all have to find something else to do by 2050, writes Lois Blaine at New Atlas. Blaine argues this is perhaps more revolutionary than nuclear fusion, and the beauty of the design, if it works, is that the technology originally made for fusion reactors could end up putting them out of the job. Oh my gosh. We're kind of getting down a road here, aren't we? Well, here we go. Fusion reaction needs a bare minimum of a decade more development before it can be deployed commercially. And that is still a somewhat, I would say, ideal estimate, assuming that we are on the track faster than we think we already are going, which has been true so far. The financial investment needed over that time will also be substantial. At 12 to 15 miles below the Earth's surface, it doesn't matter where the drill or ex-coal plant is located, the heat will be pretty much the same. So that's actually another good point. Tens of countries that are now struggling to advance into greener energy sources wouldn't have to make the transition, which means hundreds of millions of acres of land could be saved from needing to be covered with wind turbines and solar panels, which produce huge amounts of e-waste and don't generate electricity if the weather conditions aren't suitable. And the weather underground is always the same, as they say. In fact, the world would be set for a paradigm shift, since unlimited clean energy could be obtained within most nations. It would untether them from geopolitical concerns about oil-rich countries and their human rights abuses. On land and sea, birds and wildlife would be untouched by any massive polluting oil spills that would become a thing of the past. Okay, so let's do it.
The future is in our hands. At Quays,
Look into this crazy, like, future dystopian commercial.
20 kilometers underground is an untapped energy source waiting to be harnessed. This is supercritical geothermal energy, the largest source of clean energy on Earth, as powerful as any fossil fuel, and as clean as solar, wind, or hydro. It has a footprint a fraction of other renewables, which allows us to make better use of the land available to us, like feeding a growing world, preserving our dwindling forests, protecting our precious wildlife. We believe the solution to the planet's energy problem has been beneath us all along. That's
Oh,
why
wow.
we pioneered a new type of drilling system, one that can go deeper than anything seen before. It will enable us to reach the required depths to access this abundant source of clean
Sorry,
energy.
Moss. No crunchies for you.
And by unlocking this form of energy at a global scale, it could mean energy independence for every country around the world. It could create millions of jobs and lift 1 billion people out of energy poverty, all while solving greenhouse gas emissions. More importantly, we can finally move on from fossil fuels and give future generations a chance to live in a world that's flourishing.
Okay, so I only have one problem with this, and it may seem a bit silly, but I have to put forward that that is perfect, right? Reasonably, when you make nuclear fusion generators, it takes quite a lot of space, like more space than, I think they were saying as much as like an like one of those, an airport. It's like the size of an airport to make a nuclear fusion reactor. And right now they still don't really do anything, right? They're tests, they're huge bottlenecks that need to be worked through. And by 2050, we may not have enough time left to put them into use. So there are reasons to consider something else. Now, if somebody was to drill a hole straight down into the Earth's crust, basically into the very blood of the planet to get that water up, essentially, you would just have a nuclear power plant that is running without any, like I said, without any negativity whatsoever, besides tapping into just a single pin of the energy of the planet, which is, it's pretty good. However, my only problem, isn't this the exact way that you would cause Godzilla to come out of his slumber beneath the Earth's crust? I'm just saying, if such a thing is possible, this is what would do it. I know it's silly, but that's my only thing I can think of, is that this may inevitably cause some problem that we don't foresee yet. And also, that commercial was a bit wildly stereotypical for a energy corporation promising unlimited energy. So I do have some doubts, I would say, though it certainly is a lovely idea. Hey, I mean, if they can do it, then I won't complain. I'm still going to be worrying about Godzilla, though. Though I guess he's not as mean in the newer movies. Gamora would be. I don't want that one to show up either. But anyway, that's my only real problem, is that it's kind of messing with something we don't completely understand yet, I'd say. Whereas, like, wind turbines, I mean, of course, they're not as effective as the supercritical heated water, but, like, a wind turbine, it doesn't seem like it's going to cause a huge problem if we don't know, like, that we're messing something up with it, right? I don't feel worried about that. Whereas this, it does worry me slightly, for a reason I can't quite put into words. But certainly it's more worrying than wind turbines, but less worrying than nuclear fusion to some degree. Let's see. Oh, wow, lovely. So this is a good one, too. Here's our next one, folks. And by the way, I hope that you're enjoying this show so far. this has been a nice one for me just to hang out for a little bit with you folks, which, as you know, is one of my favorite pastimes when I have the chance. So, here we go. Carbon negative plant opens in Turkey, turning algae into biofuel, and so much more. So, to begin with, I like the idea that these guys have all these tubes up, and they're like, yeah, these are our tubes. Do you like them? And then someone's like, well, we've got to put something in them. And then they start putting algae in them. And it's like, well, I think we can make this into biojet fuel, but maybe we should like wait and see how people like the tubes first. And so like the big wigs show them like, okay, well, you got tubes here, pretty good tubes. You're putting algae in them? What does that do? It's like, oh, we think we can make biojet fuel out of it. And like, well, the tubes are nice, so we'll give you a shot. But if that fuel doesn't come out in the next like 2 years, then it's going to be game over for you. And so they figured out the problem. 0 carbon is coming out of it. And now they're getting biojet fuel, which is the way it should be. I mean, if you know anything about algae grows pretty quick. I think it's about a month and a half for a full pod of algae to be formed on the surface of water, or onto the rocks in the water, varying different times, of course. Whereas, like, jet fuel requires things like antifreeze and some pretty, like, highly distilled types of, I believe it's petrol, but I'm sure it's even more crazy than that. So by that same token, this does seem like a much less crazy thing. You might need to add some antifreeze into this still. I'm not exactly sure. But at least it's not putting in that crazy petrol, am I right? So, Europe's first large-scale biorefinery for turning algae into fuels and feedstocks has been completed on the Black Sea shore of Istanbul, set to head up a new bioeconomy. The refinery, powered entirely by wind energy, will turn microalgae and microalgae species into carbon-negative jet fuel, feedstocks, supplements, and fertilizers. They are carbon negative because algae absorb CO2 as plants do, but far faster and in much greater amounts than woody plants like trees. Once processed into products, more of that carbon pulled from the atmosphere remains imprisoned than is released during production, hence it being carbon negative. Okay, I see where they're going. The project was funded in partnership by the government of Turkey and the European Union. It is just one of a number of initiatives dubbed Project Independent. The biorefinery, located at Boğaziçi University's Saratep campus, can process 1,200 tons of algae per year. Reporting on the refinery says that the algae will be used to produce jet fuel that, when mixed with 5 to 10% fossil fuels, will power a flight leaving Istanbul by the end of the year. Wow. The plant of 1,000 uses. The coconut palm is sometimes called the tree of 1,000 uses. Well, algae is certainly the plant of 1,000 uses as well. Algae-based supplements have been trialed in both Brazil and Australia as ways to diminish the methane emissions from ruminant grazers, like cows and sheep. Algae, as Project Independent details, also can be used to absorb phosphorus and nitrogen, two normal and important agricultural inputs that, due to topsoil erosion from industrialized farming, have greatly polluted fresh water and coastal resources. Okay, I see where they're going. Algae is eaten as a vegetable in many parts of the world. Wakame and nori especially are delicious, and as far as carb stocks go, They are far more nutritious than grains. Okay, I guess we're eating algae bread now. Algae bread, algae croissants, algae baguettes. I don't know where this could go, but will they still be green? I don't know. I don't know. Algae supplements are also excellent chelators, or compounds which attract and dispose of heavy metals in the blood, such as cadmium, lead, mercury, and excess levels of less harmful metals. Other benzene-based particulates, such as polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which can be released from the burning of fossil fuels in power plants, car engines, or fireplaces, can also be taken up by algae-sourced chemicals like spirulina and chlorella before being excreted in the urine. Yum, spirulina and chlorella. Tasty, tasty. Lastly, synthetic fertilizers are produced with large amounts of CO2 emissions, contributing to the agricultural sector. Non-synthetic fertilizer often comes from fish or shellfish waste, like oyster shells, being that they're rich in nitrogen. Just grind them up. Producing fertilizer with algae produced in a carbon negative by our refinery could revolutionize the sector and return attention of legislators and environmentalists to the real source of emissions in the world, namely transport, energy, and manufacturing. Let's get in there, folks, and see what this is about. Oh, gosh. So we're not going to have any sound for this one, because honestly, we're not going to get a lot out of it. I don't understand this language. I don't quite know which one it is, but I can't speak it. This gentleman seems to be talking about the way their fuel works. Okay, more fuel, more talking. Ooh, things in beakers. I like seeing that. Bless him. Okay, wind turbines. Okay, lovely, lovely, lovely. Now talk more about the goo. Talk more about the algae. There we go. We want that algae windmills. Okay, okay. They didn't talk about the algae very much. It's nice looking though. Oh, right there. Okay, that we got 1% algae, unfortunately, which I'm not quite happy about, but you know, we get what we can, don't we? So, folks, we are on to our next good news story. I hope that you guys are enjoying yourselves, and I will shill for myself here for a moment. If you are enjoying the stream, consider following. That way, if at any time you don't really know if you want to keep watching or if you want to leave and come back, or just know when I decide to do a random stream during the day, you can see what's up. Give it some consideration. It doesn't cost you a thing but a single click. So, on we go. Tiny marine microbe could turn out to be the secret weapon in the battle against climate change. Okay. If we get enough of these secret weapons, we should be able to do something, right? I hope so, at least. A tiny marine microbe, which could turn out to be a secret weapon in the battle against climate change, has been discovered. The single-celled microbe has potential to absorb carbon naturally, even as oceans become warmer and more acidic, say scientists. It is abundant around the world and can photosynthesize as well as hunt and eat prey. Okay. The tiny organism, discovered by researchers in Sydney, Australia, secretes a carbon-rich exopolymer that attracts and immobilizes other microbes. Then it eats some of the prey trapped inside before emitting the mucus-like carbon-rich substance. Once other microbes are trapped inside, it becomes heavier and sinks, pumping carbon back into the oceans. Okay. Marine microbes govern the natural environment through a range of processes, including the vertical export and sequestration of carbon, which ultimately regulates the world's climate. While the role of plankton in helping store carbon dioxide is well understood, the role of other microbes in this process is less well known about, scientists say. This is especially true for organisms that can photosynthesize and eat other organisms, like the Venus flytrap. They say their findings are hugely significant for how we see the ocean balancing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It is estimated that the species christened Prorocentrum cf. Baltisum has the potential to sink 0.02 to 0.15 gigatons of carbon each year. A gigaton. Experts believe that to meet climate goals, 10 gigatons of carbon dioxide will need to be removed from the atmosphere every year from now until 2015. Oh, gosh. The findings imply there is more potential for carbon sinking in the oceans than it was previously believed, and that the seas could capture carbon in unexpected places. The process could form part of a nature-based way of enhancing carbon capture in the ocean. Lead study author Dr. Michaela Larson said, "Most terrestrial plants use nutrients from the soil to grow, but some, like the Venus flytrap AE, gain additional nutrients by catching and consuming insects. Similarly, marine microbes that photosynthesize, known as phytoplankton, use nutrients dissolved in the surrounding seawater to grow." However, our study organism, Prorocentrum cf. Baltisum, is a mixotroph, that's a new word for me, so is also able to eat other microbes for a concentrated hit of nutrients, like taking a multivitamin. Multivitamins for plants. They're basically just drinking Gatorade. Having the capacity to acquire nutrients in different ways means this microbe can occupy parts of the ocean devoid of dissolved nutrients, and therefore unsuitable for most phytoplankton. The study's senior author, Professor Martina Doblin, said, "This is an entirely new species, never before described in this amount of detail." The implication is that there's potentially more carbon sinking in the ocean than we currently think, and that there is perhaps greater potential for the ocean to capture more carbon naturally through this process in places that weren't thought to be potential carbon sequestration locations. The natural production of extracellular carbon-rich polymers by ocean microbes under nutrient-deficient conditions, which we'll see under global warming, suggests these microbes could help maintain the biological carbon pump in the future ocean. The next step, before assessing the feasibility of large-scale cultivation, is to gauge the proportion of the carbon-rich exopolymers resistant to bacteria breakdown and determine the sinking velocity of discarded mucospheres. That was a pretty heavy statement right there. I'm not sure I understood most of that. This could be a game changer in the way we think about carbon and the way it moves in the marine environment. The findings were published in the journal Nature Communications. Well, folks, honestly, I have no idea how to react to that because that's a lot to take in. It's an awful lot to think about. But we have some cute animals showing up here in just a moment. I believe is in the case of some rhinos. they never caught that rhino. That's what it's making me think of. Sorry. This is stupid. If anyone gets that reference, then I wish I could give you a free subscription, but I would think about it if you knew that reference. Okay, we've got some dodo stuff for rhinos just after this. All right, here we go. Endangered baby rhino born in a Czech zoo is named after Kiev. A baby rhino named Kiev, in honor of the Ukrainian defenders, was born in a Czech zoo exactly a week after Russia began its current events. Belonging to the eastern black rhinoceros subspecies, Kiev's birth is another success for one of the few zoos in the world with a successful breeding program for these rare rhinos. Kiev is the 47th rhino of this critically endangered species, that is subspecies, born in the Dvor Kralov Zoo, since they received their first one back in 1971, and the first one born in about 4 years. The young rhino's mother, Eva, has been taking extremely good care of him and is very calm, even allowing some of her milk to be taken for the feeding of the other youngsters, per an update from the zoo itself. Sans horn, the little one is nevertheless growing up fast, 2.2 pounds per day usually. Aw, look at that cutie. AP reports that Kiev is one of 4 baby rhinos of the species born so far this year. The zoo's animals have, over the years, been transferred to other zoos to help genetic diversity of other breeding programs, and 9 of their rhinos have been reintroduced into the wilds of Rwanda and Tanzania, and have since reproduced there. The latest update to the IUCN's Red List found that the rhino numbers are increasing faster than they are decreasing. All right. What do you want me to explain about rhinos? Furthermore, the population remains largely intact, with animals able to reach each other easily, and there is a normal percentage of healthy, mature animals among them, which is actually really good considering how bad things have been for rhinos in the past. It's gotten a lot better. Oh.
One of the best. They're such special animals. The different personalities that they have, they make you laugh all the time. Some of them are so naughty. A lot of the rhinos actually talk back to you. They have like a huff.
Wow. I didn't know that rhinos made that noise, I'll be honest with you. They do a bit of sensory deprivation. You've got white cheddar popcorn. Ah, more smart pops, huh? What did you want me to explain before, Moss, if you don't mind me saying? Oh, look at these cuties. I bet rhinos have a very gentle nature about them when they're young, because they just seem like they're very open to being held and you know, given love.
Because she was so small, she stayed with humans a lot. So Mewy had decided that even
Oh,
though
Mewy.
the
Mewy
rhinos
and the rhino.
if they were sleeping in the room, Mewy would sleep there. If we went on a walk, he'd come with on a walk. Mewy, come on. I think
Mewy's a
really
great
like
name for a cat.
they're very close
Oh,
together.
oh.
You see a cat go
What
around
does he
the
want?
corner and
He wants the cat feet. Gotta get away. Or he'll sniff the tail.
the goal of the project is to release all the rhinos back into a very protected area. When the rhinos arrive, they
Aw.
get a lot of food.
Two cuties just hanging out, giving each other hugs.
They get milk every few
I think
hours.
cuddling a rhino does sound nice, actually.
And then they get weaned at 16 months. They'll start exploring the bush on their own. Just to let them be rhinos.
It was right at the end of the seaweed thing before the rhino animals, or something.
And at about 3 years old,
Well, I can tell you that rhinos have had a lot of problems with being hunted for quite some time. I'm gonna pause this one here because I didn't like that. I didn't like that image that we just got. Any more like that? Okay.
the ones we have released is very safe.
Didn't want that one, but it's okay. Sometimes you get what you don't want.
Saw something and it's worth something.
But yeah, rhinos have been hunted to extremely dangerous levels because of their ivory horns. One of the few creatures in nature that has ivory in such a diverse and extremely large amount. And the certain subspecies that have been farmed are basically to the point where they will soon be declared endangered or on the path to extinction if they're not cared for soon. So, this is incredibly good news considering that many of these very same species have come extremely close, and we have brought them back from the brink. Only some of them, though. This is one of those species, it seems like.
Mewy's always loved walks. He's like a dog.
Aw, I think it's sort of the same amount of stuff, but it's similar.
I held it like
More content is fine, though. I'm gonna be wary of of little pictures I don't like, though. Anything I don't like here? Oh, the cat, that was great. Seems fine. Aw, look at the little tiny.
really shame a gross little kitten. Like he just needed to be taken care of.
Oh,
In everything.
that's a big
Like
neck.
a springbok,
Gosh.
babies.
Oh,
everything.
wow.
Oh, we have an elephant as well. It's grown up with all these funny looking creatures around him.
Gosh. Wouldn't it be insane to grow up around all these different kinds of animals? You'd be like, I don't know what any of this is.
When she was about a month.
Aw.
That she was trying to protect her mother. She had 3 stab wounds on her back, but luckily they were just kind of superficial, so they didn't. They're very social animals. They need that constant company. Some like want to sit on your lap. She's got her own mattress that she sleeps on at night, and then we sleep next to her on our mattress.
Aw. Yeah, animals need other animals, even if they have humans.
She's still our youngest rhino.
Aw.
The next 2
Really adorable.
They're about a year old already, so that's way too big for her. I don't think they noticed the size difference really. She's doing very well. She's just full of stats. She's the center of attention at the orphanage. Jamila will be really good at being out now. She's really full of attitude.
I hope you're enjoying yourself at the cabin exclamation point.
Mewy, come on.
They are kind of odd couples, though, aren't they? A cat and a rhino. I don't really know what to make of it, to be honest with you, but you know what? Oh, baby rhino grows up with goat best friend. Let's see how this goes. Okay, seems okay. Aww. Oh. You know, I do like goats. Goats are very sweet. So sorry about that slurp. Oh, it's a rhino pack. If anyone remembers the rhino from Spider-Man, that's what's making me think of right now. The goat would be perfect for this. Gosh, that goat just butting heads with a rhino, it seems kind of crazy to me, but I guess it's fine. Aww. They're inseparable. Aww. Oh, the rhinos. You know what? I'm starting to enjoy looking at rhinos. I was not sure how I felt about them before, but they seem chill. Aw, that's a beautiful image right there. Alright, folks. So, we are getting close to the ending part of this stream. So we'll do a couple of news stories, and we might play a little bit of Dwarf, bit of Dwarf here and there, and then we'll call it a day. All right. Oh, you're gonna scare them away? Why? The rhinos? I'm not sure what you mean. Researchers make giant leap to produce affordable, renewable hydrogen. This is just from yesterday, so this is fresh news. An Australian company has invented a totally new electrolyzer. I'll talk about electrolyzers in just a moment after the story is finished. To expand use of hydrogen fuel, which they say represents the first revolution in the technology in 200 years. Separating water into hydrogen gas and oxygen through electrical current known as electrolysis, or electrolysis, I don't know which, is both the chief method behind green hydrogen energy and expensive and inefficient. Yet for long-haul trucking, steel manufacturing, and more, hydrogen could be the only input available in green energy's arsenal to replace petroleum products. The Swedish company SSAB is already making steel a bit greener by using hydrogen power to replace coal as a carbon input. The Australian firm Hysata has changed the design of the major component to make the cost of pure hydrogen fuel competitive with fossil fuels by decreasing the heat and resistance generated through separating hydrogen. Oh, also, here is the story for you guys looking in the chat. What we did differently was just to start completely over and to think about it from a very high level. Jerry Swigers, Hysata's chief technology officer and a professor at the University of Wollongong, New South Wales, told The Guardian. Everyone else was looking at improving materials or an existing design. In a scientific paper published in Nature, demonstrating their new electrolyzer's potential, they first outlined the problem with the old ones, namely that even state-of-the-art water electrolyzers typically require 53 kilowatt-hours of electricity to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen, which contains 39.4 kilowatt-hours of energy, a deficit of 20 or 12. Oh my gosh. There's a lot going into this. Before we can understand why that deficit exists, it bears a short explanation of how these devices work. An electrolyzer consists of an anode and a cathode separated by a sponge-like membrane. H2O is sent into the anode, where its electrons are stripped and turned into electricity, powering whatever it's connected to. Its positively charged protons then cross through the membrane into the cathode, where oxygen is pulled into. There, the protons reunited with their electrons, post-electricity harvest, combine with the oxygen to form water and heat, the only emissions. Where Hysata break from long tradition is that, in their electrolyzer's circular shape, the hydrophilic membrane sits immersed only a little in the electrolyte reservoir, in the same places as where the water enters. The membrane continuously pulls up the water and the electrolyte in steady amounts that allow electrolysis to occur without the formation of hydrogen gas bubbles. Typical of electrolyzers which house the anode and cathode entirely within the hydrogen reservoir. These gas bubbles block physical access to the catalyst on the anode and cathode, reducing efficiency. The elimination of the gas bubble problem results in Hysata's efficiency rate of 95%, or 41.5 kilowatt-hours per kilogram of hydrogen. Hysata aren't just scientists, however, and the economics of their electrolyzer makes sense. The membranes are easy to manufacture, and the process can be automated at scale. the International Renewables Energy Agency set a target of 2050 to invent new methods of electrolysis that will reduce the kilowatt hour required per kilogram produced to 42. Hysata are now the only entity on Earth to have achieved that, and if a long-haul trucking sector required 1 million tons of hydrogen per year, generating that with Hysata's technology would save 3 billion USD. That's an insane amount of hydrogen. So I actually have a story about this. When I was first starting my foray into voice acting, this is a while ago, I was actually very new to the art and very new to understanding how it works. But the way that I got close to it was by reading a book that was about a man who had developed something similar to this. And the way that he had developed it was simply by creating just this bit of junk that happened to do just this. Free energy from hydrogen just by turning the machine on. And the idea is, interesting. A lot like the idea of the thing that reduces, or the underground energy. But in the novelization of this technology, in continuation with his other series, it was difficult for me, a Babu at the age of, I believe, 19, perhaps, or even younger, to complete his book, considering that I was already not in the best way. And then, because of that, his book, which I can't speak to the quality of, made me very unlikely to finish it. And so I was unable to even complete my first task as a voice actor, which does, I have to admit, provide me with a degree of shame. And it is something I believe I should try to iron out, if I can help it, before it becomes a situation. And so we will continue to our final good news story. Resetting the clock on aging cells safely reversed signs of decline in mice. This is from today's news. Age may be just a number, but it's a number that often carries unwanted side effects, from brittle bones and weaker muscles to increased risks of cardiovascular disease and cancer. Now, scientists at the Salk Institute have shown that they can reverse the aging process in middle-aged and elderly mice, leading to a variety of benefits. The technique works by partially resetting their cells to more youthful states, which impact skin, eyesight, muscles, and the brain. We are elated that we can use this approach across the lifespan to slow down aging in normal animals. The technique is both safe and effective in mice, says co-corresponding author Juan Carlos Ispisua Belmont, professor in Salk's Gene Expression Laboratory. When injured, the youthful skin of the treated mice had a greater ability to heal and was less likely to form permanent scars. Both the kidneys and blood of treated animals more closely resembled epigenetic patterns seen in younger animals. As organisms age, it is not just their outward appearances and health that change. Every cell in their bodies carries a molecular clock that records the passage of time. Cells isolated from older people or animals have different patterns of chemicals along their DNA called epigenetic markers. Scientists know that adding a mixture of 4 reprogramming molecules, October 4th, SOX2, KLF4, and CMYC, also known as Yamanaka factors, to cells, can reset their epigenetic marks to their original patterns. Scientists have used this approach in experiments to improve the functions of other tissues, like the heart, brain, and eyesight. At Salk, they tested 3 groups of mice at varying ages, equivalent to humans at the age of 35, 50, and age 80, and found after 7 or 10 months, the mice resembled younger animals in both appearance and ability. Interesting. This youthfulness was observed in the animals treated with the Yamanaka factors for 7 or 10 months, but not the animals treated for just 1 month. What's more, when the treated animals were analyzed midway through their treatment, the effects were not yet as evident